Whitney Hart is the Chief Strategy Officer at Avenue Z, leading AI driven brand and growth strategies across search, social, and emerging media channels. With that, Whitney, we're thrilled to have you at the event and very much looking forward to your presentation.
Well, thank you so much for having me and for inviting me to speak with your audience today. It's a pleasure to be here. I am here today to talk about AI search, what this represents as a new growth engine, and how one can think about architecting winning strategies for the new AI search era. First and foremost, who is Avenue Z? Avenue Z is an AI accelerated, data first hybrid agency for influence. Here at Avenue Z, we focus on three core pillars of providing marketing and communication services. Those would be performance media, paid media services, owned media, all things content creation for every channel out there, and earned media, public relations strategies and placements for our clients. And we are known for our blend of these capabilities for AEO, answer engine optimization. Ultimately, how and where you show up in large language models and what you can do to influence what large language models are saying about you and how they are recommending you to your target audiences. So, have you ever wondered how your favorite AI chatbot learns, whether that's ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, or Grok? I'm going to take you through a few examples right now so we can see what different features and functionalities look like in these large language models. And from there, we'll dig in a bit to different usage trends we're seeing in the market today and how you can move the needle in your marketing ecosystem to appear in these large language models and become a preferred recommended result. So let's kick things off looking at ChatGPT. If you are the CEO or the CMO of an AI powered meeting assistant organization, you would probably assume that someone seeking your services, someone seeking to contract a company to provide your services, would put in a query like this, like the one that you see on the left. My leadership team wants an AI powered meeting assistant to handle notes, action items, and summaries. It must integrate Zoom, Google Calendar, and Google Drive. Recommend the top 5 tools with pro, cons, and ideal use cases. And you see here in the second screenshot that ChatGPT is going out and searching the web. It is not looking only at its training data, or otherwise known as the data that it was trained on that it has in memory. Instead, it is going out and doing a live web search to bring back the best options. And based on that live web search, it recommends 5 meeting assistants that integrate both Zoom and Google Workspace. And it provides all the way on the right this very convenient table where you can see the tools, what ChatGPT has determined that tool is best for, as well as if you scroll to the right, you would see more columns that build out different check marks or red notes if your tool does not provide those capabilities, so that you can go through and make the best decision for you. If we turn to Gemini, you see a similar layout, though there are structural differences. In this case, someone within an organization is looking for an AI assisted product management tool for a product team. So the prompt is very similar, but the application is very different. So if you are within the leadership team at an AI assistant product management tool, this would be the type of prompt that someone looking for your tool would be putting into Gemini or any other large language model to make a decision about what to RFP and what to purchase. So you can see here that Gemini is also going through and doing web research. It's scraping the internet to be able to put together this recommendation table that you see in the middle 2 screenshots. And in this case, Gemini defaults to giving star ratings. So this is its way of giving a prioritization of what is best suited based on the individual's prompt. ChatGPT does not provide this capability by default. You would need to explicitly ask it to provide this type of rating. So this is important to think about. When you're optimizing content for ChatGPT versus Gemini, how do you ensure that all of the right information, all of the right integrations are appropriately reflected? And how can you also work with PR or with third party websites to provide ratings and reviews and recommendations that can positively influence your presence within large language models? Perplexity is another popular and valued large language model. And here you see that Perplexity gives a lot more information about what it is searching. So in the screenshot on the left, you see it go through exactly the queries that it's putting in to a traditional search engine. You can see exactly which sources it's reading, including Reddit and PC Mag. You don't get this type of detail about what's happening on the back end of Perplexity. You don't get this level of detail of what's happening in a large language model like ChatGPT or Gemini, but you do get it with Perplexity. And here you can see in the right, in the screenshot to the right, a short list of who it's for. And all the way in the two screenshots to the right, you can see the specific websites that it's pulled this information out of. ChatGPT and Gemini don't give that same level of transparency and visibility. And same thing with Grok. Here in a query for Grok, you can see that it has looked at 75 sources in order to bring back its recommendation after exploring the internet, searching X content. It's pulling all of that back and amalgamating that to make a recommendation. And ultimately, then you can see all of the pages in Gartner, Fraxion Biz, different third party sites that it's used to pull in to make this recommendation in 42.95 seconds. So, what does all of this tell us? There has been a substantial evolution of how we find answers. Some of you may remember the Yellow Pages, back when you had to look through and flip through Yellow Pages to find a vendor who you could call to receive recommendations or insights over the phone, or potentially then schedule time to sit down in person to further explore what your needs were and how you could get them solved. From there, we evolved into America Online and Ask Jeeves, which then pivoted into Google. And Google has been the uncontested champion of search interfaces for over 2 decades. What the previous screenshots show us is a significant evolution of how we find answers. Many of you probably remember the Yellow Pages. I know I remember growing up with these large yellow books around my house, where my mother used to have to look up a specific vendor, make some phone calls, perhaps do a visit to their store in order to find what she was looking for. From there was an evolution into America Online and Ask Jeeves, which then resulted in Google, which had unquestionable dominance over the search industry for nearly 30 years. But today, we have a very different landscape. With large language models like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, Google AI Overviews, which take a user's query and collate them into a textual response. It goes out and does research and comes back with information you have to go search and look for independently, all organized in one place. To that end, information discovery is changing. Millions, if not billions, of consumers are now turning to ChatGPT, Perplexity, Google AI Overviews, and more for instant answers. The blue links of organic search, scrolling, social media, or systematically reading the news to find the information that users want and need is no longer happening in the way that it used to. And we've seen an absolutely explosive growth in AI search over the last few years. As of March 2026, about 900 million users are using ChatGPT weekly to do research and answer their queries. And that 900 million represents about 60% of Gen AI market share as of this month. From there, another 15% are using Gemini, nearly 13% Copilot, nearly 6% Perplexity, 5% Claude, and then an assortment of other large language models as well to answer their queries. And we know that generative AI is the future of search. We've seen, based on this data from Android users worldwide, that Google has remained about stagnant, around 60% of daily active users are on Google every single day. Whereas we've seen OpenAI over this time frame jump from about 25% to 45%. So the divide between them is closing rapidly, and the number of people turning to ChatGPT is nearly on par with Google, and notably, conversions. What every marketer, every CEO, every CFO wants to know more about. Should I invest in AI search, and why should I do it? Well, while AI search may drive far less traffic to one's website than a traditional search engine, we do know that the quality of that traffic and conversion specific to that traffic is significantly higher than traditional search. AI search traffic converts at 14.2% compared to Google's at 2.8%, a 5 times difference. AI traffic views 3.2 times more pages and stays 4.1 times longer. And 73% of AI visitors convert within the first session. You can see in the chart on the left, there is a significant delta in conversion percentage, particularly for SaaS and technology and lead generation, as well as professional services industries. So it is crucial to ensure that you are being found and that you are being referenced positively in large language models. So how do you go about doing that? AI search is not simply SEO with a few things tweaked and a few things changed here and there. There is a lot of overlap, as you can see in the table on the right. They are very structurally similar approaches to content and data, but with some very important differences. That means you cannot just pivot from SEO into AI search. It is an add-on, an expansion of existing programs of work that requires a new level of collaboration between teams from your organization. Core pillars of AI search that we need to talk about today and that you need to take into account if you want to seriously think about how you show up in AI search and look to move the needle. First and foremost are technical optimizations, starting in the right-hand column. These are table stakes to ensure that your content is showing up, that you are crawlable, and that you are legible to AI bots. And from there are 2 pillars to build on top: content and creative. So publishing high quality content on your site, on social media channels, on third-party content collaboration channels like Wikipedia or Reddit. All of these sources of content are crucial for the AI bot to come in, to understand what you do and what you provide, and to verify that against third-party sources. And this is where public relations and earned media comes into play and is crucial. Understanding those quality citations from trusted media publications, ensuring that there are similarities in content strategy and messages across earned media and owned media is one of the most important keys to success for AI search. So going a little bit deeper into these technical optimizations for AI visibility, you need to be thinking about how data structuring ensures your brand authority is optimized and is consistently consumed by those AI bots. Again, this is very similar to what you may have done in the past for SEO, but has some really important extensions and changes that need to happen for the benefit of AI. From there, that content and creative is very important. One of the things that we do frequently for our clients is go through and analyze all of the content that is published on their site today to understand how those legacy content strategies need to be updated around thematic topics for the benefit of semantic search. And finally, those reputable media placements that drive results. We know that OpenAI in particular is prioritizing content from outlets with which they have a formal partnership. And these outlets are key. Since July of 2023, OpenAI has gone through and partnered with 18 outlets that represent more than 450 publications worldwide. And we know that OpenAI is prioritizing content from these media outlets. OpenAI is able to go in and read not only current content, but the entire back catalog that normally sits behind a login screen for a user to pull all of that information into its training data for the benefit of ChatGPT. And in exchange, those organizations receive a link back to the article in question. And so, understanding how you can deploy relationships with these media outlets, how you can ensure coverage in these media outlets is one of the most important next steps you can take when thinking about how to improve your visibility within large language models. So, most people at this point say, what do I do next? And at a high level, I have three actionable takeaways that you can think about today for implementation and improved brand visibility tomorrow. First and foremost, forge relationships. Most individuals within organizations, particularly large organizations, don't necessarily know who is responsible for SEO, who's responsible for PR. Are you using third party agencies? Understanding who is doing what, how they are doing it, and what can be done to improve collaboration is a crucial first step towards improving ways of working and driving better visibility in large language models. Second, audit your brand content and audit it through the lens of the large language model, as well as your brand messaging frameworks. This will enable you to assess where edits need to be made and new content needs to be created. One of the things I typically recommend is to get together with those individuals that you've now met in step one and do a live activity. Pull up ChatGPT on a shared screen and start going through and asking ChatGPT or Gemini or Perplexity or Grok what it knows about your organization, where, when, and how it recommends you. And think about asking questions as if you were a client executing an RFP. What would they find if they go through and use a large language model to try to find your organization and make a buying decision? And finally, audit your PR coverage. See where you've been able to secure media coverage over the last few years and how strategies may need to change for your new audience, the AI bot.
Whitney, thanks for that great presentation. For everybody listening in live, you have a Q&A box in front of you. Type in your questions for Whitney, and we will get to as many of those as we can at the top of the hour on the next Q&A panel.